There really just aren't a whole lot of fitting words to describe what happened for the Guardians on Tuesday in New York. But fortunately for us, for you, this is a Daily Cleveland Guardians podcast. We're going to find a whole bunch of words to talk about what happened for the Guardians on Tuesday in a huge, huge win in the Bronx.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I think in the words of Dennis Eckersley, wow is fitting here. We'll find a lot more words on today's Locked On Guardians to talk about that. But really quickly, let you know that this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And this is Locked On Guardians. I am your host, Justin Latta. Jeff Ellis taking some much-needed vacation with the fam for the next couple of days before he gets back to school. So he is off. You will just hear my sweet dulcet tones for the day and my radio voice on YouTube, or my radio face, I should say, on YouTube. Truthfully, I'm sorry for that. You have to see me alone. On today's show, my goodness, we're going to find one of the things they don't teach you. And I did go to journalism school. I did go to broadcast journalism school at Akron. My degree is in communications. One of the things they don't teach you is how to put into words games like that where you are just speechless over how things went for both good and bad in that one. They don't teach that. That is something you just have to kind of find out on your own. That is not a lesson they came across at Akron. So on today's show, we are going to talk about the Guardians digging deep for a win. Truthfully, I was going to come in here and tell you guys about balancing how the Guardians should balance, deciding how much this series really matters between the Guardians themselves and for the fans too. Deciding how much this series should really matter in the grand scheme of things. But you want to know what? With how that game went, with how Stephen Vogt managed it, I had to flip it all around. I really did. I had to completely come at it from a different angle. Really quickly before we get started, I am Justin Ladd. As I said, I'm your solo host for today and tomorrow's show. You heard me on this podcast every day, wherever you get podcasts. Thank you guys for being everydayers. We appreciate all of you listening every day when this scheme is hitting, when they're not hitting, when things are wild, when things are fun, when things are frustrating. We appreciate you guys being along for the journey with us. We enjoy every one of you, even the ones that tell us we don't know what we're talking about. Maybe we don't know what we're talking about. I don't know. There were a lot of times in this game I didn't know what I was talking about either. And I don't think anybody knew truly how things were going. But I've also been a writer at various outlets. Let's see, Guardians Baseball Insider, the News Herald, the Morning Journal, the Lake County Sentinel, Bleacher Report. It's pronounced Lajaway, all different kinds of places I've written in Cleveland since 2007, and also contributed to the Morning Journal and the News Herald right now as far as Prospects Live as well. And here with you guys. We appreciate all of you. I'm going to flip it real quick here. I'm going to say my second segment was going to be on how much really to put into this series, because at the end of the day, this is still just a 3-game set in August, and you're facing a playoff team, and you're facing a team that you might see in the playoffs, and you're also facing a team that's directly competing with you for one of the best records in baseball. And things are kind of iffy right now. You got the Alex Cobb situation, a 3-game losing streak, and the offense has been struggling. I think Cleveland probably didn't want to put too much into it, but I thought that coming in. I think the individual win matters itself more for where they are in the standings. They need to get off the schneid of this 3-game losing streak, which they did, no matter who it was against, whether it was the Yankees, whether it was the Timbuktu Timbers, didn't matter. They had to get off a losing streak, and they had to win the game in front of them. So I kind of feel like the opponent didn't matter as much. I think we as fans probably felt like the series meant more because you're competing with a team right directly with you in terms of the standings and the overall record, and trying to clinch that first bye, one of those first round buys, and maintain your status at the top of Major League Baseball and the American League. So does the opponent matter that much? And I said, you know what? I don't think you could take the series too much more seriously, anything more than just, hey, they need to win these games right now. That's what they had to do, I think, is just take it for they had to win these games. But after watching how that unfolded, I kind of feel like they did take it a little more seriously. I don't know if it was necessarily the opponent, but the situation definitely is what I think mattered the most to them. They definitely wanted to win that game. You could tell by Clase pitching that second inning. And just the way they handled that game. They at least Stephen Vogt, man, and the coaching staff managed that game like it mattered. They needed to win today. They needed to win on Tuesday evening. And again, it was mostly just to break the 2-game losing streak, but you also are competing with a team that's right with you in the standings and overall record. I don't think it necessarily matters in terms of being a potential playoff opponent, but also it just matters more about getting off that 3-game losing streak and trying to win a game in front of you, which matters. And I guess the season series is still up for grabs with New York. You lost all 3 in Cleveland. You got 3 here, so I guess there's a tiebreaker in play here as well. I don't know what the tiebreaker is if Cleveland somehow wins all 3 of these games. I don't think anybody listening to this podcast on Monday would have, or even Tuesday, would have talked about sweeping the Yankees. And I still don't know if anybody believes that either, but the Guardians at least won game 1. So they have that on their plate. They're off the losing streak. They won a game that they had a lot of chances to win. Now, there's no doubt that was an exciting win. It's a big win because losing that game could be really crushing, especially for the Guardians where they've been. The 3-game losing streak, the lack of offense. Cobb's going to be down for at least two outings. He thinks maybe more. We'll talk more about that in later in today's show. And just riding the ship. The Twins are breathing on your neck right now. I'm watching the Twins and Padres game as I'm recording this on Tuesday evening. So it's 7-5 Padres. That's been a wild game. So there's a lot of reasons the Guardians needed this win very badly, and it mattered very much to them in the grand scheme of things. Maybe not necessarily for the opponent, but just winning that game overall. They certainly managed that they needed to win, and there were a lot of frustrating moments. They had this game. They should have won this game multiple times over. They had the bases loaded 3 times and came up empty. 2 in before the 10th inning and 1 in extra innings, and then finally they cleared things with David Fry at the plate. So actually, that was 4 times. Whew, there were definitely a lot of frustrating moments in that game, but that's a game that can really break you given where the Guardians have been. Like I just said, the 3-game losing streak, Cobb, the offensive struggles, and just not coming through in that situation. That game really could have, I don't want to say broke you, but it definitely could have made things a lot worse, a lot harder to come back from, might have, caused a lot more self-reflection, I think, than they've had to face all year, even though they've lost 7 in a row at one point. And they still are tied for the best record in the American League, which, after all that was said and done on Tuesday night, they still are tied for the best record in the American League. And that is just mind-blowing to a lot of, I think, it shows you how good they were in the first half. And if that team is still there, they're just fighting for consistency, and they're fighting for every little bit in there. And there's fighting some injuries, and they probably needed more at the deadline, but more wasn't done and more couldn't be done, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's a huge win. That's a much better feeling coming to the ballpark on Wednesday after winning that kind of game than losing, especially how the Guardians got there on Tuesday. It's got to be a huge weightlifting off your back win instead of going into Wednesday trying to figure out how you're going to snap this losing streak, especially when you had all the chances in the world on Tuesday to do that. And they did. They outlasted the Yankees, who are a flawed but good team, just like the Guardians. The Guardians are a good team. I don't think you get to August 22nd tied or in the discussion for one of the best records in all of baseball and not be a good team. I know things have been frustrating in the second half. I know the offense is struggling. I know the Cobb situation, and there's moves that need to be made. We can talk about more about that on this episode as well. I know all that's frustrating. Again, the Guardians are a flawed team. They are. They are definitely have pieces on this team that are flawed. But that doesn't mean they're not a good team. Same with the Yankees. Same with the Orioles, same with the Twins, same with the Phillies. All these teams have flaws. It's a very, very wide open year, which is why the Guardians are here. And it's also why things are wide open in the playoffs, right? I know we're sitting here saying, how is this team going to score in the playoffs? How can they win the playoffs? They got to win the division first. And I keep saying the division they're going to win the division. And I still mostly believe that. I've had some doubts recently, I will say. But this is still a good team. They're flawed, but they're good. They are resilient. They have pieces. That bullpen, the bullpen showed you what they can do in a playoff series. Emmanuel Clase made an absolute statement on Tuesday. He is the premier reliever in Major League Baseball. Lowered his ERA to 0.61 on the season. Again, relievers don't get Cy Young votes. Well, they do. I should say that. I should take that back. They do get Cy Young votes. They don't get first place Cy Young votes. It has not happened since Eric Gagne, I believe. There was the year where Zach Britton got consideration in 2016. He didn't win. Clase is going to get consideration. He's going to get some, I got to think, top 5 votes. But that was the performance of the year by him, and I think the entire bullpen, honestly. Comes in, and not only does he go a second inning, and the second inning winds up being against the top of the Yankees order with a runner on in extra innings, mind you. They brought him in the 10th and the 9th inning to get the game to the 10th inning, but he comes out for the 10th inning with a runner on second, which has plagued Clase in the past. It plagued him a lot in 2023. It was frustrating to watch. And he faced the top of the Yankees order, and he threw 20 pitches in 2 innings. He's probably still available on Wednesday because of that. And Steven votes that after the game, if he had faced a 4th hitter, if he had not retired all 3 in the 10th, they would have gotten him, which makes a lot of sense. And that could have been dangerous at that point. That might have made things gone awry, but he didn't. He is just the most dominant pitcher in baseball this year, bar none. And I know people are going to say, well, if he is, why is he going to win the Cy Young? It's volume. It's volume. I think if he struck more guys out, he might even have more of an argument. The strikeouts are definitely not there, but everything else is there, man. He is impossible to hit. He's ridiculous. He's the backbone of this team. The bullpen is. The bullpen made a statement. The Guardians' bullpen was not taxed as bad as you think on Tuesday night. That's going to matter for Wednesday. We're going to get into more of Tuesday's game. We're going to get into a little bit of Wednesday. We're going to talk about Joey Cantillo. We're going to talk about all those kind of things. I was going to save the second segment for not putting too much importance on the series, but watching that game and watching how they managed it, this series is important. Again, not because of who they played, but because of the situation the Guardians were in. And they managed the game like it. And for all the things that went wrong, they had chances. And there's no moral victories. They won. So they have the victory no matter what. There's no moral victories. But for as frustrating as things were, got to feel like a huge weight off their shoulders in this game. It's a huge win at a huge time. It might be the win of the year for the Guardians. We'll talk more about the game. We'll talk more about Wednesday. And I think we'll get into some minor league stuff. Tuesday was also an interesting day in the minors for the Guardians as well. So lots to talk about, even though it is a solo episode of Locked On Guardians. Stick with us. Passion, drive, and patience. The patience to watch that Guardians game on Tuesday. That's the formula for winning championships, right? It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, whether you're into superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, speed, power, style, and more. eBay Motors has you covered. They have over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for with the eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, the prices you want, it is easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins like the Guardians did on Tuesday night. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today, every day, wherever you get podcasts. We love you guys for being everydayers, or whether you're new here. After you're done listening to me and Locked On Guardians today, check out our pal Sully over at Locked On MLB to cover all the day's biggest storylines. Probably this Guardians win over the Yankees. The Padres 7-5 win over the Twins. I'm sure he'll cover that. The Guardians pick up a full game. Check that here on Locked On Guardians, and check more of that for the national perspective over on Locked On MLB with our pal Sully, part of the Locked On Podcast Sports Network, your team every day. And we're talking about the Guardians, of course. Huge statement game by Clase, but the bullpen as well. I mean, Nick Sandlin, who has been one of the bigger issues in the last few weeks. Well, he has just lost it since his back injury. He comes in and gets 2 huge outs behind Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd had a good game. Sandlin only threw 9 pitches. He's available on Wednesday. I know some people will say, you want to pitch him more? Gonna have to. And he's good again. Or at least he was good. Hunter Gaddis, I'd say probably available. They were off on Monday. He threw 23 pitches. I think you can get an inning out of him. I don't think you let him go that deep. You hope it's a little bit more efficient. But let's be honest. Here's the thing. He faced Soto, Judge, and Stanton, and you wanted a guy in there versus spin, or who had good spin, and that's more Gaddis than Cade Smith. So that was the right call. Again, vote. Good call there. Cade Smith comes in after Hunter Gaddis throws 17 pitches. He did give up a double. He did walk a batter, but no runs crossed, 17 pitches. He's available. Emmanuel Clase, I know he threw 2 innings. They might be careful, but heck, they just pitched him 4 days in a row last week, so I think he's available up to 20 pitches. Tam Herron threw 8 pitches. He's available on Wednesday. Scott Barlow threw 23 pitches. We'll see on that one. He was taxed a little. He had the walk and the double. He did strike out Juan Soto. I know people are going to say, why was Barlow even in there? Barlow was in there because the one pitch that gives Juan Soto fits is a slider. He's hitting 185 this year against sliders and slugging 370. So Scott Barlow, who his best pitch is a slider, that's why he was in there. Aaron Judge, same thing. Not a lot of pitches give Aaron Judge trouble, but one of them is a slider. Now, granted, he's still slugging 432 off him, but that's much lower in comparison to what he's doing against other pitches. Unfortunately, Scott Barlow put one in a bad spot, and Aaron Judge made him pay, because even if he's struggling against the pitch, you put it in a bad spot, Aaron Judge is too good to do that against. But again, it was the right call for the right situation. Those are the 2 guys in the lineup that struggle with spin. Barlow was a good matchup there, and he got to save. It worked out. It wasn't even a safe situation, I should say, but it worked out. Just a statement game by the bullpen, though, overall. And the 1 run scored because of the double. It's a statement game by the bullpen. And there are just so many little moments in this game. Again, a lot of frustrating moments. There's no doubt there was a lot of frustrating moments in that game. There were a lot of really crazy good moments, too. I mean, let's go back to, what was it, the second inning? The second inning when they get their first run. Giancarlo Stanton slides coming home. I'm like, I don't even know why he was coming home on that ground. I guess you go on contact and you force him to make a play. And guess what? The Yankees, who are not a great defensive team, didn't make the play. Now, it took a replay challenge that was successful for Cleveland for that run, but look how much that mattered. That was a huge one. Giancarlo slide and the 8th inning relay. The ball, there's so many little pieces there that could have went wrong. And again, the Yankees didn't have a good base runner in there. They lifted Giancarlo Stanton at that point for a better base runner. Not fast. It was Austin Wells. Well, he's not fast, but he's a better base runner than Giancarlo Stanton. And Kwan backs up Sheeman on a missed catch in center field that was hit deep. If Kwan doesn't back him up, that run scores and the Guardians lose 4-3. But Kwan is there backing him up, gets the relay. The relay throw is not great, but Bo Naylor goes out and gets it and comes back and has time to get the runner at home, which is great. Just so many little moments in this game. And again, the Guardians had 4 times the bases loaded. They stranded, 20 runners, I think, in this game? They stranded 20 runners, but they were 7 for 24 with running scoring position. Go look at the Yankees side of the box score. If you're frustrated by Cleveland, the Yankees left 12 on base. They didn't have as many runners on base, but they were 1 for 16 with running scoring position. That's huge credit to the Guardians. Their defense mattered. The Yankees didn't play good defense. The Guardians did. The Guardians ran the bases well. The Yankees did not. The Guardians worked a ton of walks. Now, granted, Cleveland walked, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 batters. That's a lot. Boyd had 4. But the Guardians, they worked 14 walks. This team has gone a full week without walking 13 times. They walked 14 times in one game. And it looked frustrating at one point because Luis Gil was not throwing strikes at all. And they were patient. They just never came through with the big hit. They got him out of the game. He got hurt. There is that. He had a back injury. But then Tim Hill comes in, and he throws 24 pitches in 2 innings. The first inning, he threw 3 pitches. Or 4 pitches, I should say. And the Guardians' approach looked like it went away. And then slowly they started to work more walks. And they didn't get any big hits, but they got runners on base. And they came through when it mattered. They outlasted the Yankees. The defense, the base running all mattered in that game. I know the hitting with running scoring position could have put it on ice earlier. I think it's the biggest win of the year. I really do. I think this is the biggest win of the year. Again, I'll go back to saying what I said to start the game, the podcast. The situation, not necessarily the opponent, but the situation, but also somewhat the opponent. It's Yankee Stadium, and you are facing a team that is, again, good but flawed in their stadium, which, Juan Soto hit a Little League home run with the Little League right field. I know some Yankee fans going to find me in the comments and get mad at me about that, but sorry, that's a home run in one ballpark, and it counts. I'm not saying it doesn't count. I'm just saying that's just how it works. That's a home run only in Yankee Stadium, but that doesn't matter. The run scored, it counts. It's a home run. The Guardians gave it up. Guardians still managed to win the game. But yeah, and they're facing a team that's up with you in the standings, and you needed to break that losing streak. And the Yankees do have a good team, even if they are flawed, because the Guardians are the same way. I mean, my goodness, look at all the things that didn't happen in this game. Jose Ramirez, for some reason, was given a sixth at bat. Didn't walk him. He came through with a big hit to add on. He was having a horrid night in terms of chasing balls out of the zone. Stephen Kwan continues to be in a free fall offensively. He eventually walked 3 times in this game, but his offensive struggles continue. Josh Naylor's at bats were terrible. Will Brennan was the only guy that didn't get on base, though, because he was lifted for a pinch hitter. Andres Gimenez walked 3 times. Daniel Schneemann had a hit. It ended up being an RBI. He had 2 hits, even though they weren't pretty. Bo Naylor's been struggling all year. He still had 2 hits. Lane Thomas, who has been everyone's favorite whipping boy this year, and Brian Rocchio, 2 of the biggest guys in this game. Brian Rocchio and Lane Thomas, everyone that we all love to hate on the most, whether we're talking about it or just as fans. Lane Thomas got a huge double late in the game off a lefty. That had to feel good for everybody. And then Brian Rocchio hits a home run that gets the Guardians to tie the game, and he lays down 2 base hit bunts that wind up being huge. And he also draws a walk, so it's a good game for him. He had the relay throw that wasn't great, but he got it in. And then he had a really great play early in the game where he was going way out into left center field, caught a ball over his shoulder. That was great. He also had the relay where he didn't throw the ball in, and the Yankees did score the third run. That wasn't a home run off of Judge or Soto. So there was some, Rocchio giveth away, and Rocchio giveth in this one. But, I think he came out in the positive end despite that goofy stuff. So, man, again, just for what the Guardians had to go through to get that win, it's the biggest of the year. It really is. It really is. I think it is. They broke the losing streak. And again, that's one of those games where it could really haunt you for not coming through with the bases loaded that many times, and just trying to break that losing streak. And then, fate works out that the Padres beat the Twins and you gain a game back, and your bullpen's in better shape on Wednesday than the Yankees, because the Yankees used all their relievers, and their bullpen has not been good, and their defense isn't good, and their base running is not good. But they got 2 guys in the middle of the lineup that can crush you. Matt Boyd got crushed by them, but he didn't fold under pressure. He walked 4 guys. He gave 2 home runs. The third run maybe could have been prevented if Rocchio throws that ball in. Maybe we're not talking about extra innings. I don't know. I'm not sure he would have got him, but he still should have made the throw. Boyd, for a guy making his second start coming off of Tommy John, I don't think you can hate what he did. I know, again, he gave the 2 home runs to Judge and Stanton. Those are the 2 guys you can't let beat you. But, kind of like in the NBA, your 2 big stars in this game, they're going to do their damage. And to the Guardians and Boyd's credit, nobody else really hurt them. Judge had 3 of the Yankees' 5 RBIs. Soto had the other. Volpe had the other as well. He's been struggling a little bit, but that was a good game for him. You outlasted him. You just got to make sure those at-bats, the home runs by Soto and Judge were solo home runs. He didn't put on guys in front of him. He walked Jose Trevino 3 times. I'm not sure why the strike zone disappeared on him against Jose Trevino, but he walked him 3 times, and that didn't come back to burn him, because you want to know what? Trevino only scored 1 run. So it didn't really come back to burn him that badly. But you want to make sure there's nobody on in front of Soto and Judge. One of those guys, it might be a 2-run homer by Judge, but if it's 2 solo home runs, again, solo home runs won't necessarily beat you, and they didn't on Tuesday. So I think you got all you can ask for from Matt Boyd, and the bullpen did the rest. Again, that's the blueprint. Matt Boyd, 5 1/3, he got you into the 6th against a tough lineup. I know they're flawed, but they're tough. He got you into the 6th inning with a chance to win the game. The bullpen did the rest. The offense was lucky enough to be given so many chances. They figured it out. But when you have a bullpen like the Guardians do, you're gonna be able to set yourself up for more chances. And the Guardians, at least, they didn't have any chances in Milwaukee over the weekend. They had a lot of chances in this one. I guess I'm saying that's a step in the right direction. I don't know. Let's talk more about Wednesday. Let's talk more about Tuesday's minor league action as well on the rest of today's Locked On Guardians. Before we get into that, of course, though, let's talk about Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America. They have over 5 million active users. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And the best thing about Prize Picks is, unlike other apps, it's you versus the numbers. It's not you versus somebody who has an algorithm, who has data, who's doing this all day at home running numbers. It is just you versus the numbers. Pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch the winnings roll in. Get on the daily action, your friends. Become part of the Prize Picks community today. So many good things going on right now with Prize Picks. All of September, guys. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's 4 weeks of free wins. Don't miss out on the free wins there. All kinds of other stuff, too. I was looking at the NFL. I was looking at season stats for the NFL. As an Ohio State fan, I was looking at Marvin Harrison for the season, how many receiving touchdowns was on there, and the pick more, pick less, the stat was 6. I'm picking more. I love Marvin Harrison. Travis Kelce, the local guy, 6.5 receiving touchdowns for the year. I'm picking more. I think he can do it. Wednesday's players fantasy score for Jose Ramirez is 7.5. He's really struggling. It was 9 for Aaron Judge. I might take that just because of Joey Cantillo starting. Who really knows? It could be interesting. But if any of that sounds good to you, head on over to Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use our code LOCKEDONMLB for your first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game. More action for the Guardians on Wednesday. Let's hope it doesn't go 12 innings and it's a Guardians win. You can catch all the action from New York on your SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians to find the local broadcast. Whew, where do we go from here? Let's talk about, I guess, the Cobb update and Joey Cantillo. So I saw Zach Meisel, who's in New York with The Athletic, said, talked to Cobb pregame, and it sounded like he's hoping it's 2 starts. We don't know. He spiked a curveball and he started bleeding. His nail started bleeding. They had to, again, take half of it off. Luckily, it's only half and not the whole thing, I think. So that's maybe good. So we'll see. He's hoping for 2 starts. We'll see. That would be, I think, a really good scenario. So Logan Allen could have made this start on Wednesday, but they chose to go to Joey Cantillo. We'll see how that goes. I imagine Anthony Goes is probably the move because Anthony Goes was brought back onto the roster with Sam Henches going to the 6-day IL and Cobb going on the injured list to make room on the 26th. I would imagine it's Goes for Cantillo on Wednesday. We'll see about that. That's a big blow. It sounds like Henches is done for the year. That's, we talked about that. It's a big blow. Cantillo is an interesting matchup. Lefties in Yankee Stadium are kind of ideal because of the right field porch. Juan Soto, I haven't looked at Juan Soto's splits this year, but if you're trying to look hopeful about Cantillo, and again, this is a guy who struggles with walks and a guy who struggles to keep the ball in the ballpark. That is not a great combination for Yankee Stadium. It is not a great combination against the Yankees, who walk a ton, who hit a ton of home runs. If you want to look at some positives, though, again, this is the Yankees lineup that is kind of left-handed heavy. You have Judge and Judge, obviously, and Stanton. I think it lefties pretty well. Again, I don't have the splits in front of me there, but we were talking about why Barlow is a good matchup for Juan Soto is similar to what Joey Cantillo does well. So Juan Soto is a freak. He's really good. He's one of the best hitters in baseball. The 2 pitches that really give him trouble are changeups and sliders. What does Joey Cantillo excel at? Changeups and kind of sliders. Sliders a good pitch for him. It's the worst pitch for Soto this year. He's got a run value of 1 against them. Again, hitting 185, slugging 370. Changeups, he's hitting 233, slugging 400, 4 run value. So it's still a positive run value, but it's the least run value. He still has a 981 OPS against left-handers. So you're not really getting an advantage there, but at least you have a matchup there of pitches that may work for a couple of innings. Same for Aaron Judge. Again, changeups for him, hitting 175, slugging 500. Because Aaron Judge is so good, that's just one of the things that he does so well. Even if he's struggling, it's still not struggling like other people struggle, but it's the one thing you can maybe do with him. Slider, positive 4 run value. So again, not negative, but he's hitting 243, slugging 432. He's human against those 2 pitches. Everything else, he is just superhuman. Again, it just tells you how good those guys are. But the nice thing is, Cantillo's going to have to limit the walks. There's no other way around it. It's going to be a tough start for him. The nice thing is, again, Sandlin, Gaddis, Smith, Clase, and Heron should all be available on Wednesday. If you have a chance to win that game, you deploy all those guys if you can. try to win the game, and then you have to reset things a little bit on Thursday. But if you win Wednesday, that's 2 in a row. It's 2 or 3 in the series. You win the series. You figure out Wednesday, and or Thursday, and you're hoping that Gavin Williams comes through for you on Thursday, and maybe you make a move. People wanted the Guardians to make a move big time on Tuesday with the offense. They did not. Cal Manzardo hit a home run in AAA. Look, I think we've beaten this horse to death on this podcast about David Fry, who came through with a nice hit in extra innings, who I don't have a problem with Vogt using him where he did early in the game against Tim Hill. He had a runner on second. He was facing a lefty. He was trying to go for the runs. I think he managed that game like a playoff game. I really do. I think it's because he wanted to win that game, just to win the game because of where they were. And they're trying to continue to hold on to this division and get off a 3-game losing streak. I have no problem with how he managed that game. Fry coming in early. It didn't work out there, but he eventually came through with a big hit. And he had a walk, which, great for him. And the big hit was against a right-hander. He hung in there. I'm going to continue to say, I know Jeff continues to say it, I think he might need time on the injured list to fully heal. And you could use Manzardo. There is a tough spot here for the roster as far as fit, because you cannot carry a David Fry. You can only DH and maybe play first, Manzardo and Josh Dano. I think that's the only reason Manzardo's not up. Again, people are frustrated about it. I understand. I think Manzardo should be up. I think the only reason he is truly not up here is because David Fry right now is a DH first base only. He cannot play right. He cannot catch. He's barely played first. Clearly, he cannot throw the ball right now with his elbow injury. Clearly, that's, I hear Zach saying all the time his elbow's wrapped after every game. I don't know what's going on there, but clearly he cannot play a position. If you could use him as a catcher, as a right fielder or whatever, you could fit Manzardo on this roster. But essentially, if you bring Manzardo up, you are having 3 DH / first baseman. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. The alternative again is to put Fry in the IL. And I guess I've raised this question before. Does a 15-20 day stint on the IL heal what's going on with him? Is that going to work? I guess only time's going to tell. We're not probably know till the offseason, I guess. If it would have been worthwhile, we'll see. He continues to play through it. There's George Valera. There's people are going to say Chase Lauder. That's not happening. We talked about that on yesterday's show. Even though I played devil's advocate, I know that's not happening. He had a hit, by the way, in his debut. It was a little chopper to third base at AAA. It wasn't a hard hit ball. It was an infield single. It was off Jared Jones, who was rehabbing for Pittsburgh with Indianapolis. Jared Jones struck out 10 batters in 5 innings in Columbus, by the way. He is ridiculous. The only batter he didn't strike out, though, was Chase Lauder, so that's good. He had a fly out and that chopper single to third base. Manzardo homered off a reliever. I don't know. Like, you have Brennan in there who gets pinch hit for as soon as a lefty comes in the game. You could send Schneemann down. Schneemann had 2 hits, and he's versatile, and they value that. Had a great play in right field. Center field, that was not a great play. It would have been a tough play, I think, but he didn't make it. And they don't ask him to play center field a whole lot. Same with Freeman. So even bringing up, a Valera doesn't give you an extra center fielder. I think Will Brennan probably makes that play. That's about it. It's probably a play you need to make, but thankfully the relay worked for them because a better runner probably scores there. So they got that gift, but the only option really is to send Schneemann down or Freeman. But I think you need one of them to cover shortstop on off days. There's the whole Arias thing, but Rocchio had a good game. And at this point, I'm just convinced they're going to stick with Rocchio the rest of the year. I don't think there's any reason to beat that dead horse. He had a nice play at shortstop. Again, I said it earlier, he had a nice play at shortstop, but he did have the one relay he didn't throw, and the relay throw he did throw in was not great. I don't think they're going to switch at this point, and they need another left-handed hitter. So if it's Campy Manzardo, your only option is Valera, and I think it says, I don't know how much I want to read into them not calling him up. He didn't have a great game on Tuesday either, but Juan Brito's not a fit right now. It's literally Valera or Manzardo, and the only way Manzardo comes up, I think, if Fry goes in the IL. Maybe that's worthwhile. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Martinez, again, could give you more as a switch hitter, but he was struggling. I think I kind of like Martinez more than Schneemann in all aspects of the game. That's just me. He's struggling too, but that would be a move I would make. I think Martinez right away. I don't want to bag on Schneemann, who had a good game on Tuesday and played an important role in that win, even in a lot of oddities. There was a lot of oddities in that game. It just was. Pedro Avila and Eli Morgan also available, by the way. So there is that. And those two guys have pitched really well, by the way. So, the Guardians are set up pretty well for the rest of the series. We'll end on that note. The Yankees bullpen is very beleaguered right now. A lot of people are talking about Guardians is really good. And, outside of Barlow, I think everyone's available. I think everyone's available tomorrow, truthfully. I don't think anyone was really taxed that much. And again, if you get the lead, if you have a chance to win that game, you pull Cantillo early before if things don't get away from him. You deploy your relievers, you go for the win. And if it works out or it doesn't, you regroup on Thursday. You have Gavin. You hope Gavin has a better start in that ballpark. And you still have guys like, again, Morgan, Avila are available. And those guys have been pretty good recently, to be honest with you, especially Avila. Morgan is kind of a wild card, but you'll have someone available for Thursday, and you'll reset things. I think the Guardians are set up well for this series. And, their lead's back to, 3.5 now, I want to say. Technically it's 3.5. It's actually 4.5 with a tiebreaker, but of course the half will be broken at some point. But the good news is all there right now. There was a lot of good stuff that happened in the Guardians minor league system on Tuesday. Again, Manzardo's home run, Chase DeLauder's debut at AAA. Doug Nikhazy had a classic Doug Nikhazy start where he had 11 whiffs, which is good, but he had 6 walks. Franco Alaman and Andrew Walters both pitched. They both looked good. Alaman's velocity was back up. Dylan DeLucia had another start where he didn't walk a batter. Coming off Tommy John, that's fantastic. I wanted to get more into that today, but we'll leave it there. On tomorrow's show, it's another solo one from me. We'll talk about Joey Cantillo versus Nestor Cortez. Good matchup for the Guardians. It's a lefty. Noel, Thomas, Fry. They hit lefties well. Like, this is a good matchup for them. Plus, the Yankees bullpen is a little bit on edge. So the Guardians are in good position on Wednesday after this wild game. Plus, they should be feeling good after that win too, right? We'll talk about that. We'll talk more about the minors. We're going to talk about MLB Pipeline ranking the Guardian system 4th as well at some point this week. We'll get into September call-ups, some Rule 5 thoughts. We'll also talk about the best tools in the Guardian system as Baseball America is releasing some of those. All that good stuff to get into tomorrow and the rest of the week. So much to talk about this week. Appreciate you all tuning in, sticking with me. Please leave a review if you can. It's been a while since we had a review on iTunes, or I don't know, Spotify does reviews too. Leave us some comments on YouTube, all of our everydayers. Appreciate you all for listening. And go, Guardians, go.